or deserve anything else besides great praise. And I'm grateful that he's given us the opportunity to come into your homes, your spaces, and wherever you are to encourage you during a lunchtime moment for 15 minutes of daily inspiration. I'm your pastor of Internet and Innovation, Vance Ross, and I'm so excited to be tuned in with you. You know what we do. Tag 10 people, share with 10 people, and text at least 10 people and let them know that 15 minutes of daily inspiration is on. You are on the New Birth platform. Our senior pastor, Dr. Jamal Bryant, has equipped us with the opportunity to always encourage, inspire, and lift God higher in everything that we do. So do what you do right now so that we can get this message out and get right into it, because you know that I'm in the midst of a series called The Kingdom Pandemic. And we are on part 7 of that Kingdom Pandemic. This segment is being themed with the term conflicts. I see you already turning your volume up. Conflicts. Conflicts have been made to believe, and many of us have been made to believe, that conflicts are always negative. But I found out in my life that often conflicts are positive for us in the long run. And this dynamic is where we're pitching our tent today. I'm titling this segment, The Dilemma of Kingdom Conflict. The Dilemma of Kingdom Conflict. We're still dealing with Daniel. We've gone from Daniel coming out of Babylonian exile and dealing with Nebuchadnezzar to his conversation and his ability to speak in tongues to Belshazzar. And now we're in his experience with a king named Darius. We're not so focused on Darius, though. We're focused on what has happened to get Daniel to the place that his conflict turned around and maximized his impact in the kingdom. And there are those of you who are right in the midst of conflict. You hate your boss, and you're glad that COVID-19 came, because you hadn't had to look at him for almost 90 days. You hated your circumstance. Some of you hate your spouse, your friends, your family, and the conflicts have made you believe that it is negative. But when it comes down to your purpose plan, your life plan, and your business plan, when you don't have conflict, you honestly don't even have a kingdom. If it was always honey and no bees, it would not be worth the journey. And sometimes conflict has been designed in the kingdom to get you directly where God wants you to be. And as we shine a spotlight on Daniel right now, I want to be able to help you pull out tools, tips, and insight on how to operate in this kingdom pandemic at your optimum level of purpose. So realize that in the midst of conflict, one of the best ingredients is service. I'll say that again. In the midst of conflict, one of the best ingredients is service. Realize that service is the secret sauce to the success you seek in moments of conflict on platforms you've been called to. You don't get so upset that you throw in the towel and turn over all the tables when conflict happens. The greatest remedy for conflict is service. You got to keep on serving. You got to keep on working. Because if you can only be successful in the kingdom during this outbreak with people and circumstances you can get along with, you're not a leader. You're just operating in a false sense of reality. Because some of the greatest leadership moments I've ever experienced was when the conflict was high. When I had to figure out how to navigate when I couldn't get along with people, when they didn't understand my point of view, when things were not as peachy keen as I wanted them to be. The kingdom was maximized because the conflict created an understanding that I would not have had without it. Realize that your victories will always be tempered by impending vicissitudes. Again, your victories will always be tempered by impending vicissitudes. I want you to celebrate the victories and navigate the vicissitudes. Understand, sometimes conflict has happened to keep you from being too big-headed. Sometimes conflict has happened to temper you because you were so high on your own supply that the conflict pulled you down and balanced you out. Somebody knows what I'm talking about, where you thought you were all of that in a bag of chips and some kind of conflict came up and it mellowed you, it tempered you, and you had to figure out how to navigate the conflict. I know I'm not the only one in here who can testify that, God, I'm grateful for my conflicts and my purpose plan, because they taught me how to smile at folks that I was getting ready to cut their throat. Some folks I was able to deal with that I wanted to cut off, and not knowing that I was going to need them down the road. And because the conflict happened, I was able to operate in my purpose the way that God is designed. And as we look at Daniel's life, we're finding that Daniel operated in consistency. He learned how to communicate, and as a result of being consistent and learning how to communicate, he runs into conflict. Isn't it frustrating to be doing what God designed and called you to do, and once you wake up in the space that you've been designed to be in, you run straight into conflict? You frustrated because, God, if you told me it was going to be like this, I would have stayed where I was. If you told me I was going to have to deal with her and deal with him, and I had no idea I was going to have to deal with him, I wouldn't have come here. But God put these conflicts in the sign and in the costume of individuals and circumstances to help you operate at the highest level in the kingdom. I want you to understand a few things, and I'm out of your way. Your consistency will present conflicts that you must prepare for. Your consistency will present conflicts that you must prepare for. Realize that sometimes conflict came just because you were consistent. Conflict came because you kept doing what you were called to do over and over and over and over again, and it created a conflict. Let me help you understand. Everybody doesn't want to see you win. Everybody doesn't want to see you succeed. They are waiting for you to trip up. They are waiting for you to fall. And because you keep holding your head up, you keep rehearsing your lines, you keep working on your shot, you keep working on your plan, that consistency is frustrating people, and conflict has to show up. They had to figure out, how is it that you still alive when I thought I killed you years ago? How is it that you still surviving when I thought when I left you on the side of the road, you wouldn't win? And now they see you still thriving, still winning, still breathing, because you've been consistent. What you just did is you produced conflict, and it was designed for you. Realize that Daniel has been so consistent at praying 3 times a day that all of a sudden, his enemies, all they had on him, get this, was that he was consistent. And because he was so consistent, they designed a plan to kill his consistency. And some of you need enemies that are praying on your consistency, because you were praying 3 times a day and you were good at it. But now that they are in the midst of conflict with you, you're praying every time you open your mouth. You turn Steve Harvey off. You turn Ricky Smiley down. You are tired of Netflix because the conflict in your life put you in a position where you created consistency. You ran smack dab into conflict, and you now have to prepare for it. You made up in your mind, I am not going to cuss them out today. I cussed less today than I did yesterday. Thank you, Lord, for the conflict. I was ready to go completely off, but this time I smiled. I didn't cry this time. I was tougher than I was the last time. Why? Because consistency will present conflicts that you must prepare for. Not only will consistency present conflicts that you must prepare for, but more importantly, your context will present conflicts that you must grow from. Your context will present conflicts that you must grow from. Realize that some of us have been placed in a context that was designed for us to grow, because we were the biggest fish in the pond we used to be in. Everybody looked at us. They thought we were the best thing since sliced bread. When we said it, it happened. When we put our finger down, people jumped. When we raised our hand, people moved. But now he moved you into a different context. And all of a sudden, it presented a conflict that made you grow. You realize that now you're growing more than you ever grew in these conflicts. You are learning how to operate at a higher level of peace simply because of the conflicts that have been presented to you. If you had stayed where you were, you would not have grown in your character. You would not have grown in your patience. You would not have grown in your temperament. But now, because your context has changed, it presented a conflict that you started growing from. You didn't grow until this situation happened. You didn't grow until you ran into this headache. You didn't grow until you ran into this dilemma. This conflict forced you into a place where you said, now I'm stronger. You got a Marvin Sapp spirit. I'm wiser. I'm better. I'm so much better because when I got in the midst of this conflict, I was made better. I grew. I got taller. I felt myself getting stronger simply because the conflict came. Daniel's enemies are watching him. And Daniel didn't realize how strong his faith was. Daniel didn't realize how strong his prayer life was until he was presented with a context that forced him to grow. Every other time when he would pray, it was no problem. Nobody picked on him. Nobody made a big deal out of it. But because he's now praying in a different context, because they can't find nothing, they've got to use this moment. And Daniel grew. And just like Daniel, you're growing. Your conflict is making you positioned to be stronger, be taller, be better, and be able to withstand stuff you couldn't have withstood without this conflict. Thirdly, your connections will provide conflicts you must manage. Your connections will provide conflicts you must manage. Realize that Daniel is connected to Darius, and Darius has diarrhea of the mouth. Darius likes to hear himself talk. Yes, he's a king, but if you get him talking, get a little get right fluid in him, he'll start talking and won't stop. He just keeps going. And Daniel's enemies use Daniel's relationship with Darius to create conflict. Darius writes the decree that lands Daniel in the lion's den. And some of you understand that many of your conflicts were a result of your connections. You were connected to the right people, but they were talking to your enemies. I'll say that again. You were connected to the right people, but your connections started talking to your enemies and wrote a decree that put you in the midst of a position where conflict ran into it. And you got to learn how to manage your connections. You got to learn how not to tell everybody you connected to everything. Sometimes your conflicts were simply because you were connected to people that you had to learn how to manage. You had to learn how to manage what you said, learn how to manage where you went, learn how to manage what you told them, learn how to manage what you encountered with them, because your connections will force you through conflict to manage stuff. And some of you realize right now that you may need to manage the end button in your life. You might need to get off the phone after this 15 minutes is over and disconnect and delete yourself from some connections that will minimize your conflict, and you learned how to manage it. Number 4, your credibility will promote conflicts that you must adjust to. Your credibility will promote conflicts that you must adjust to. Don't be seduced into believing that because you're credible, ain't nobody gonna bother you, that you won't have any issues. Sometimes your credibility is what people create conflict to test. So you really that good. You really all that. You really that peaceable of a person. I heard you never get upset. I heard you never get frustrated. Let me test you out. Let me challenge how credible you are, because now if I can get you to fall off at this level in the kingdom, everything that you've worked for will fail. And you've got to understand that at this credible level in your journey, you just got to adjust to some conflicts because you're too high up to fall. You've worked too hard to get here. You can't give up now because of a conflict, because you are too credible and you got to manage it. Finally, your confidence will project conflicts that must consult others for growth. Your confidence will project conflicts that you must consult others for growth. Sometimes confidence is intimidating. You are too confident and you're walking into circumstances and you're trying to figure out why everybody is shooting darts at you. Your confidence smells uncomfortable. Your confidence irritates people, and you got to go and consult other people. How do I deal with this? Because I've got to learn how to turn the volume down sometimes, because these conflicts weren't designed to destroy me. They weren't designed to denigrate me. They weren't designed to delete me. They were designed to develop me. And conflict has put you in a position where if you learn how to manage the dilemma of conflict, you'll watch your life take off like never before. 15 minutes are up and I'm out of my time. I hope you understand now more than ever that you can't run from your conflict. Your conflict has been designed to put you in the place where your purpose, your life, and your business plan take off on a level like you've never seen it before. And you won't be able to do this without being connected to Christ. You didn't think tagged in this message simply because of the fact that you needed just some inspiration. God designed it so that you can meet him and that your conflicts can make sense. We want to offer Christ to you. If you would just go to newbirth.org and click the join button, and right now you can be connected to a Christ that will help you navigate your conflicts. On top of that, if you want to sow a seed into amazing ground, we here at New Birth want to partner with you, and we need your support to keep taking God global. If you just text with your device NBGIVE to 77977 right now, you can invest in a kingdom that's making sure that conflict is resolved all over the world. And more importantly, if you need prayer, simply email us at prayer@newbirth.org, and we are praying for you right away. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who want to follow me on social media, simply go to I am Kervance Ross, and I will meet you there. And make sure that you have your alerts turned on, because every day we're coming to you to inspire you throughout the week, throughout the pandemic, and throughout your journey. I love you. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Keep sharing, keep texting, keep tagging. Have a drama-free and virus-free remainder of the day, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.